All right, I have to talk really fast. Who knows what the acronym GIGO means? Garbage in, and that's what I introduced that to my 8th and now 9th graders the first thing they come in. So we talk about evaluation and triangulation, or as Howard Reynolds would say, developing a filter for crap. I want them to use my databases, but I also want them to understand when tools are appropriate and when they're not. And we have conversations around this little video, which is coming up in a second.
Wikipedia is the best thing ever. Anyone in the world can write anything they want about any subject, so you know you are getting the best possible information.
Whoops, sorry about that. So when to use it and when not to use it, but we don't demonize it. There are things that JSTOR can't do. If you really are interested in Dancing with the Stars, believe it or not, JSTOR will not do that. If you're interested in deep-fried Twinkies, no. If you're interested in Python as a programming language, I'll tell you something, Wikipedia may be the best place to start. We have to talk about context in search and information seeking. It's about context and thinking about what your toolkit looks like and when to use what, not demonizing any particular source. This one is, a clip is a collaboration on university instructional librarians, and they have this wonderful video on how to use Wikipedia for academic research. All about what is the information task. This is a little chart I've done on scholarly versus popular versus trade, and I found a much better video actually that does it, but I'll lead you to it. When my kids start a unit, I might pop up a list of links that simulate a Google search. And I do kind of an old-style Madeline Hunter. Let's look at this. What do you think? Should we visit this one? We have 3 million sites we can visit. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. There's no right answer, there's no wrong answer, but we have discussion with the teacher in the room, deciding whether Wikipedia is an appropriate source for this, whether a university site is an appropriate source, whether a personal page. But this is an awful lot of learning that happens with the teacher in the room, discussing expectations and decision-making skills. We were talking in a workshop earlier this morning about how do you get the kids to make good choices in their sources. There's a magic bullet for this. Make them annotate their sources. It's so easy. We've come up with an annotation structure that we use at the high school level, and you're welcome to copy that again. But on the elementary level, ask them 3 questions. Who wrote it? And by who, I mean not just the name. Who is this person? Why did they write it? Is there an agenda? Is there a bias? And how does it help me answer my question or make my case? Work for the teacher. The annotation form is on EasyBib, it's in NoodleBib, it's everywhere, that little box. Just have them go that extra step. The crap will be eliminated. And I know there are I have to go really fast. How do you evaluate Twitter? We were doing a peace simulation, a Middle East peace simulation last spring, and the kids got really excited. They said they'd found Benjamin Netanyahu's Twitter stream. And you know what? One of them did. But there were 3 Benjamin Netanyahus, which was the real Bibi. So that we played the game, who's the real Bibi? And they actually did find him, and it led to the Prime Minister of Israel's Facebook page. And so those kids, we valued primary sources for that because they had to speak as the leader. Those kids were getting press releases from the Prime Minister's office as soon as they were coming out. The kids who were using our databases were not, and it was an amazing lesson. But they had to dig through the crap to find the good stuff. I apologize to people who are not with me for my language. Okay. So anyway, this is actually the official Facebook page, and we couldn't use it at school, the block, but it was good. How do you evaluate a Twitter? There are some new strategies. I'm not sure. Cloud is a really good way to do it, but my cloud score, for what it's worth, is 61. Will Richardson's is 65. But I mean, you can get some information, at least knowing that I put out a lot of content at very least. And teaching kids also, in terms of evaluation, what is the filter bubble? know that when my children search Google, their result lists are different from mine. And how do you assess the Google filter bubble? This is a wonderful website. This is Eli Pariser's work, who talks about the filter bubble and 10 ways you can pop it. Rid of the stuff that knows you're a 10-year-old who likes skateboarding. All right, so you can do that with kids. I'm going to go, what is a primary source? Who is an expert? We used to think primary sources only looked like these important documents. Now we're discovering that primary sources might be blog posts. First responder in Japan, whose blogs were translated into English, was a fabulous resource on the tsunami. But similarly, the gay girl in Damascus was not so reliable. It was neither gay nor a girl, nor in Damascus. Sometimes YouTube, when my kids, Wikipedia and Wikipedia are actually not the first place my kids go to get their arms around a subject. They go to YouTube. If they want to know about the French Revolution and what really happened, they will likely start on YouTube. And it's a good place to kind of get a start, especially right before prom time. All right, I have to move super fast. Creativity. All right, so here's the problem. Our football players get major acknowledgments and they get noticed by the universities. What happens to our creative writers and our movie producers? Don't acknowledge their work as much. In Philadelphia, Temple University put together this Greenfield Film Festival, and I had about 30 kids enter, and out of I don't know how many schools, 3 of our kids won major awards, and those awards were not money awards. They were the opportunity to go to New York and study with a producer. Oh, those kids, I want to cry. Those kids went up and did acceptance speeches, and it was a beautiful experience. But not every kid can do that. So what we did, because we thought it was so powerful, was we created our own digital storytelling festival, a district-wide event that validated the kids' creative work. Really easy to do, and if you can't do it at district level, start it at a school level. Invite the parents, invite the teachers. And the librarian should be the leader in this kind of work and celebrate our kids' good work. Among the new kinds of projects, and I need to move really fast, infographics. You see them? I know I'm going fast. You see them in USA Today and everywhere. Are they a student project? I say yes. What kind of knowledge would a kid need before he or she could create an infographic? Great analysis skills, really visual and design skills. Our kids can do this work, and there are tools out there that can make it look professional if they do the thinking and the information collecting and the analysis in advance. This is a Google Sites resource that Kathy Schrock put together on working on infographics as a creative student expression. This is my digital storytelling page where all the kids' resources are listed. This is their menu of digital storytelling opportunities. But I also want to recommend this guide by Sylvia Tolosano. It's free to download. Sometimes it's $8.95, but you can hit return and it'll be free. Richard Byrne did this wonderful hit return. This is a guide that Richard Byrne, you remember him from yesterday, did on making videos. He's done wonderful things. Margot Torres does fabulous stuff on how kids can create media. Bernard Jean Porter, you must visit Digitales. Just brilliant work. And here's the other thing. Bernard Jean Porter did it a step further, and this is really important. How do we assess new student projects? And he has put together these wonderful rubrics that you can use parts of, build on your own, but they're guides for building rubrics for these new projects. We can't assess them as we did term papers. They're just not the same animal. We've actually had to, we used Bernardine as an inspiration, but we basically created our own for different media projects, and that was important. We weren't ready for that. Just some of my favorites. I love Hanamoto. I love VoiceThread. This was my one of our German classes created. They imagined they were German art curators, and they did all these in German. They practiced and they practiced. In the other session, one of the things people said, well, aren't they writing? The ticket for admission is a script. They can't produce unless they have a script or a storyboard or a works cited. So once they've got that stuff under their belt, then they produce. They could not have done this work in German without having a really good script, without practicing their fluency in the language. Again, similarly, I'm not going to show you this, but I'd love to. We remixed Hamlet. The kids chose their favorite soliloquy, and illustrated it with images that were meaningful to them. When you make meaning, when you make it personal, you really get it. It's very different from just reciting it in front of the teacher. And so that project has changed forever. I use Blogster a lot, we do Toon-Do, and then we always publish, we always embed the students' grade work. These are just some examples of stuff. This is a great pop-up tool. Animaps not only, it does geographic stories. We do mixed book for projects on a Peace Corps simulation to understand global studies, and you can do this with history, collecting artifacts and have the kids imagine they're in the role of Anne Frank or somebody else in history, and these can be shown, and then they are presented. It's not just the product. They get up and they present their lives. 7 minutes? Thanks, this is good. I think we're good. Okay, so here's another thing. I want my kids to share their best work. It goes back to this digital footprint, this academic footprint. Some of my kids don't want to work online. Some of my kids are just artists and they want to do watercolor. So what we've had them do is scan their work, put it in a little book, and then put it on ISU, and then we embed it. I don't want to prescribe the tool. I want the artist and the writer to make those choices. But I also want to share them in the same way. On Wednesday afternoon, right after school, and we're all going to talk about Hunger Games, and then we're calling it the Somewhat Virtual Book Club, and then in the spring we're actually going to see the movie, and then we're all going to get together for a movie discussion. And my kids they love book club to begin with, but now they're like supercharged about book club. This is what our planning session, you remember Michelle from yesterday, and we're going to use Google Plus because you can have multiple points of video. And so that's our test run of this, yeah, my hair was wet, and so it won't be then. But I love that. And then I just happened to be in Google Hangouts, and librarians and educators from around the world were on at the same time, and we had this fabulous discussion in Google Plus, spontaneous, and that's Judy O'Connell from Australia. Okay, there are wonderful ways you can make these connections. Skype in the classroom is, you want to do a project with another school, you sign up and you find a partner. I've done sitcom analysis using the Wall Wisher, and I've had the kids do sophisticated graduate level research. What does All in the Family tell us about life in America during the 1970s? I've had them code their responses, and they are not allowed to repeat somebody else's response. So if they're coding their responses in a kind of qualitative analysis, economics, what does this tell us about economics? Gender relationships, what does this tell us about gender? Then we can sort these little things and actually make sense. It's not just goofy comments. It's how does this inform us about American life? We've done it during Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, as we make connections between the Odyssey and the film. You can do this on a young level with something called Primary Wall. I just want to show you what Shannon is doing. Shannon and John Shoemaker are connecting their classes, their elementary classes. She's in Iowa, he's near Chicago, and their kids are reading together. Their work is fabulous. Shannon's opened her little photography students are getting Diane Cordell to critique their photographs. And they line up with their photographs, and Diane, who's an amateur photographer but very talented, will talk to each of these kids about it. Their Wax Museum biography project, they share across their schools. So there's audience. Audience means everything to these kids.